Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tess Visnell, and I'm your facilitator for today. You have a wonderful, wonderful panel for you. So I'd like you to take some time to take copious notes and think about wonderful questions you'd like to ask them at the end. Our time together is a little less than the 45 minutes we planned, but don't worry, I promise you this is good content. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our moderator, Reba Domensky, President, U.S. Bank Foundation, U.S. Bank. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess. Hello, everyone. I'm Reba Domensky. I lead corporate social responsibility and the foundation at U.S. Bank, and I'm so honored to be here. It's been an incredible day. We've heard from some incredible speakers, and I'd like to think we've saved the best for this panel today with this incredible group that you see in front of you. One of the questions I'm going to ask each of our panelists to do in their introduction is to tell all of you what brings them to this work. I think we've all seen today this incredible passion that all of us share for the work that we do. You wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be watching if you weren't passionate about these issues. So I'll just share with you that what brings me to this work is a quote that hung on my mom's wall in her kitchen. And every morning I would eat my Cheerios and I would stare at this quote. And I am not kidding you. I believe that this quote is why I do what I do at U.S. Bank today. The quote is from Rabindranath Tagore, and it goes like this. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. So in my role at U.S. Bank, the simplest way of saying what I do is I have the privilege of helping 72,000 U.S. bankers make decisions every day that are good for people and for the planet. And let me tell you, there is enormous joy in all of that work. So I'm a banker, and we like to start with data. So before I ask the panelists to introduce themselves, I wanted to ground you in some data, some facts. So today, 54% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck annually. 70% of millennials are living paycheck to paycheck regardless of income. Here's the next set of data. The median white household had a net worth of $188,200 in 2019, of which residential real estate composed a major share. Whereas the median Black family had $24,100, about 1/8 as much. If Black household wealth were proportionate to the Black share of the U.S. population, it would amount to $12.68 trillion rather than where it stands today, which is at $2.54 trillion. You know, I use a lot of data. I use it to compel people, but saying those numbers, saying those statistics, it's hard to believe that any of us can sit still at all and stomach the inequities that we see in our system without feeling compelled to be part of the solution. So the important questions that we'll discuss today are, how can the financial service sector continue to reevaluate its approach to increase access? We'll talk about what innovations have proved effective and what might be on the horizon. What might we be able to do if we open up our hearts and our minds? How can we increase access to wealth builders, such as investments and, as you just heard, home ownership? And to help answer these questions, we have three absolutely incredible panelists. I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves, to share their job title, and to share this passion that brings them to their work. And Mercedes, I'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Reba. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Mercedes Garcia, Vice President, Community Relations at Mastercard. And I love that you started with those numbers because that reinforces why I do what I do. I want to convince myself that I am helping impact those numbers and make them, smaller and smaller, the percentages of unbanked people and underserved people. So thank you for reminding me that, of course. Been with Mastercard 27 years. 10 of which I have been dedicated to education. And I love being a part of what Mastercard is doing, dedicated to financial inclusion, financial literacy, and ensuring that everybody has the opportunity, regardless where they are in the world, to be part of the digital world and to be a part of, what everybody else has access to. So, that's, yes, a lot of passion. And I'm one of the lucky people that can say that I do for my job what I'm passionate about. So not everybody has the opportunity to say that. So very, very excited to be here and honored to be with this amazing panel.
Thank you, Bahari.
Hey, also excited to be here today. Good afternoon. My name is Bahari Harris. I have the privilege of leading at Truist Financial as the Emerging Market Segment Strategy Manager. And in that role, I have the privilege of also helping the bank understand where to invest in order to expand opportunity, really for all of our clients, but especially for those who are at the base of the economic pyramid. And for me, that comes out of a passion born out of nonprofit experience where I was previously to being in banking, where I was actually working in the grassroots with families that are in that segment, and was able to see them bump up against the financial services industry, sometimes with success and many times, unfortunately, without. And so I wanted to kind of get behind the scenes and understand what the thesis is for how we do business in these communities. And that goal has been realized.
Thank you so much, Bahari. Last but not least, Lori.
Hello, I'm Lori Schock. I'm the Director of the Office of Investor Education and Advocacy for the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. I come at this from a little bit different perspective. I'm not a banker, but I am a regulator. And so as a regulator, I've got to give you my disclaimer that the views I express here today are mine and mine alone, and don't necessarily represent those of the commission or the staff of the commission. But that's the least part of my favorite job, but it keeps me in my job. So I have to give my disclaimer. My office is the kinder, gentler side of the SEC, if you will. So we take in investor complaints and questions at the commission. Historically, that's been around 20,000. I have to say we just got our annual numbers in because our fiscal year starts October 1. We were at 30,000 last year, and that included a whole bunch that we didn't count because they were just sort of more one-off comments than they were, something we could actually help people with. But we also do investor education and put out investor alerts and bulletins. And that's investor education as well as investor protection. You heard from someone earlier in the industry today, just right before coming into this session. And, we're the balance for that. And so when people run into problems, they contact us. Also, we don't sell products. So, but we know this is something that Americans need to do. Pensions are going away. If you have a pension, you're lucky. You're like me, a dinosaur maybe, because they are going away. Retirement planning, home ownership, sending your kids to college, that's on you now. And you're not going to be able to save your way there. More than likely, you're going to have to invest, whether it's entrepreneurship or investing in the stock market, maybe home ownership. But somehow we need to get people to make this transition to believe in the markets, because it is truly something, the power of compound interest. If you can start early and save and invest often throughout the course of your life, you'll be set for retirement. But we need people to start early and not have missteps in the foundation building. You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run. So we need all these foundation pieces in place. But I deal with the investing side of it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lori. Oh, applause for the panel already. This is going really well. If we're getting applause after our introductions, this is going to be good. So, Lori, it's fascinating you talked about these, starting early in foundation. Someone once asked me, when did you learn about financial education? And I was raised by a single mom in Detroit. And I watched my mom pay her bills on time. I watched her organize her credit card receipts in a little, credenza. But I didn't learn about financial education until I married my husband. And I remember him explaining to our 5-year-old compound interest. And I was probably 35. And I was like taking notes because I honestly, growing up, I had no idea. So really interested to talk about this starting early in these building blocks. But Mercedes, I'm going to start with you. Everybody in this group, probably most people in this room, have been working a long time to actually move the needle on financial inclusion. So from your perspective, what types of programs, what types of initiatives have demonstrated progress? And then interestingly, which ones should we rethink?
Wow, that's, something really, there's so many things out there that have worked. And I want to point out the two. But I can say one of the ones that does not work is a one size fits all. Thinking that a solution, a system, or a product will help everybody. That's one of the big mistakes that I have seen. But in terms of what it works, obviously, I'm very self-serving. I would say education. It's really, really important. And even for what Lori was saying, people recover or develop the comfort and the trust and everything through education as well. So it's not only educate people to know what alternatives are out there and how they can use those things for their benefit, but also once you have the information, you feel confident and you get the energy to do something and to really try things, and then start moving all of those misperceptions or misconceptions about banks, about credit card companies, and just taking advantage of the moment to say that Mastercard is not a credit card company. We don't give cards to people, and the banks do. So that's why one of the questions I get, among many other misconceptions about, okay, so if I don't have a bank account, I don't have a credit history, therefore my only alternative is cash. That's not true. You know how expensive it is to live in just a cash economy. Like all the money is spent and the time in things like check cashing centers, payday loans, pawn shops, all of that. So part of the education is to help people understand and feel comfortable and trust that there's other alternatives as well. So financial literacy, definitely, I would say that's one of the things that works. And as I said at the beginning, one of the things that we're moving the needle to bring down the percentage of unbanked and underbanked people. And the second would be technology, because I think, for example, one of the examples that was definitely proved during the pandemic was the role of technology. Really, really important. And if we think about, for example, the Direct Express program that many people know about it, Mastercard has worked with Treasury for several years, and the Direct Express program is a way to disperse funds and benefits to unbanked and underbanked people, 4.5 million of them, and it's $38 billion of federal funds being distributed to them through a reloadable prepaid card. So that changed the life of all of those people. Initially, obviously, there was a lot of reluctancy, and they were like, is this a credit card? What am I going to do with this? But then when they realized, especially those that live paycheck to paycheck, they realized what a big difference it does just to receive electronically your money. So definitely financial literacy, education, and technology, and using technology to bring everybody to be included in the global economy.
I love that today. One of the speakers earlier today talked about this idea of financial empowerment. And so much of what you just said, Mercedes, reminds me of that combination of education, one size doesn't fit all, technology, confidence, makes you financially empowered. That's incredibly powerful. I'm curious, Bahari or Lori, any answer or reaction to what you just heard?
Well, I just want to build off of something that you said, Mercedes, and that really has to do with the idea of alternative financial services. We talked about in the lead up to this that many folks at the base of the economic pyramid are able to afford financial services. They just afford them at astronomically high rates, right? But not necessarily with higher credit risks than their higher income borrower counterparts. And so what we saw during the pandemic, in my own market research, is that during the pandemic, we actually saw rates decline for usage of alternative financial services, particularly those, apart from rent-to-own services, the major categories. So we're talking about cash, check cashing, we're talking about money transfers, payday lending, et cetera. So what we saw was actually double-digit declines in those spaces. And so it was almost like, when you think about what happened, there's like a disruption taking place in the alternative financial services. industry, even right now. And we're able to, I think this is an opportunity for us to jump in, right, as the financial services, major financial services industry. So, what happened during that period? We saw the expansion, of course, of stimuli, government stimuli with stimulus payments and PPP, unemployment, child tax credit. We saw moratoriums happen on rental evictions, utility shutoffs. We saw the strengthened consumer as a result. And I think this is really our opportunity. You've heard of the mantra, never waste a crisis, right? So this is our opportunity to really jump in and to offer alternatives to the alternatives, right? So right now, right fit products and services, digital democratization of financial advice and guidance. And of course, we can always accelerate, to your point, those tools that build financial confidence over the course of time. And so I think that's really incumbent on us to take advantage of this opportunity in this moment.
I love that. I love the disruption. I love the alternatives to alternatives. Those will stay with me. Thank you for that. Or anything else?
I'm going to say not just an alternative to an alternative, but a better alternative.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to investing or any fees matter, and those fees impact how much you get to keep in your pocket versus what goes in someone else's pocket. And one thing that we saw during this time, and we've been in this low interest rate environment for several years now. What's your bank paying? Anyone getting more than 1%? Okay, I'm not either. But we had someone who was out there selling brokered CDs, guaranteed return 8% during this crisis, early in the crisis, because they knew people were getting money. We want to invest this money. We want to make more on our money. Well, when it comes to investing, one, there are no guarantees. And second, it's certainly not going to be guaranteed at that interest rate, okay? And what was happening? The money was being wired offshore. It was a total scam. And so it's one of those, people will take advantage of a crisis also. That's something to be aware of. So again, regulators' perspective on this, but someone took a product by name, good name, CDs, but then, used it for ill-gotten gains. That was one of our first enforcement cases during the crisis.
Wow.
Yeah. If I may add, I think it seems that we are concluding that there is something good coming out of all of this.
That's right.
And the way in which I have seen it is all the people from low-income communities and Latinos, African Americans, etc., that I have talked to in the middle of the pandemic. They were calling me and say, "You were right. I should have opened a bank account, even if a savings account. I should have a payment card, obviously responsible in a responsible way, etc." Because they were sitting at home without having the chance to go out with kids, etc. And they say, "What do I do with a check? What do I do even with the cash I have at home? If I cannot, order anything online, I cannot buy anything, I cannot pay my bills." So in a way, it was like a rude awakening for somebody, for a lot of people, and especially for small businesses as well. Those businesses that I also have, the opportunity to talk to and work with them for start accepting payment cards and electronic payments. And they no, I'm a cash business. That's the way it is. They were not able to sell their goods and services. They were sitting at home going, worse and worse every day because there was no way for those people to buy the things they needed, and it was not a chance for them to sell what they had to sell. So I think it was like a good thing that it's coming out of, among many other good things coming out of a terrible situation.
I love that. And Tess, we're going to have to extend this panel for 2 hours. So everybody buckle up. We're going to be here for a while. Bahari, my next question is for you. So in banking, we know we have this incredible opportunity to support people to create long-term wealth, generational wealth, not just for themselves, but for their families through home ownership. We've heard a lot about that today, small business and business creation, financial planning. So how can we grow the pipeline of individuals who are able to participate actively in their own financial future?
Yeah, Reba, I really thank you for that question. And I love the premise of your question. It makes me think about a quote by an ancient philosopher, Lao Tzu, who says, "Start with what they know, build with what they have." And when you think about that in combination with the theme of the conference, meeting the moment, then you have the true recipe for success. So at Truist, what we're doing is we're actually accelerating our community benefits plan, which is a $60 billion plan over 3 years to expand lending for low and moderate income home buyers, small business owners, as well as organizations that are working in community and workforce development. Out of that, we also have a $40 million investment that's going to Corner Square Capital. And it's probably easier for me to describe it in a story. This is a national nonprofit fund that gives lending to CDFIs who then turn around and relend it to small business owners. Our $40 million has gone into funds, especially African American owned businesses. So the story is about Edmund. And Edmund, this is actually a true story. Edmund is a franchisee owner of a luxury men's barbershop in the greater Charlotte area. And his business was thriving in a local mall for years before 2020 and the pandemic hit. And his business was shuttered as a result. And he was, however, able to keep the business afloat and profitable, especially after the restrictions lifted. And he wanted to expand to a second location in another mall. He was turned down by a bank. And so he came to Corner Square to get the loan that he was looking for to expand his business. They were able to make the loan, and he expanded to 2 locations and 8 total barbers. So that's exciting. What's even more exciting is that he is mentoring those barbers to become owners themselves, right? So he is giving them a 10% stake in the business and teaching them the practical skills that they need to become entrepreneurs and put them on the path to ownership. But that's not all we're doing at Truist, really to accelerate individuals participating. So when we think about the moment that we're in with this child tax credit, so you heard Brant Sanders talk about that earlier. We have a whole initiative around the child tax credit where we are helping families to navigate this really difficult time and to maximize their benefits. We're doing it in 3 ways. First, with our new clients, we're introducing them to our Bank On Certified Money account, which gives them a low-cost, low-hurdle option in order to receive the payments. For any recipient, we're also expanding our Money and Mindset platform, which is our financial education platform. And we're giving not only just the tools, but the confidence, building in the mindset to help individuals take advantage of this moment. And we've also doubled down with a savings initiative where we're incentivizing people to start an emergency savings account. So we're connecting the child tax payments to emergency savings. From a low and moderate income perspective, in terms of the segment that we're serving, this has been a game changer. Debt repayments are up 2%. Bill pay is up 4%. Very promising that savings is up double digits, short term 11%. And again, amongst low and moderate income clients, long-term savings is up by 3%. So important. So we're taking this moment to, again, start with what people know, build with what they have, meeting the moment, and living out our truest purpose, which is to inspire and build better lives and communities.
That is wonderful. So I just got the scary 5-minute warning from
goodness,
Tess.
already?
And I think we have
haven't
time
even
for
started.
Q&A. I know we have not even started. So Lori, I want to make sure I get to an important question for you. So you have had this career working to both educate and protect investors and future and potential investors. So we talked a little bit about this as we prepped on our call. How has technology served to engage new investors, but what types of challenges also does it bring?
It's one of those things. You have the good and the bad, and then sometimes the ugly when there's something new. But what has it done that's good? What's technology done? When I started, and we're 2 decades, last century, however you want to look at it, ago, paper accounts, things like that. I mean, it was a new thing when you could actually open the account online, but you actually had to come in and sign the paperwork, which sort of negated the point of doing it online. But, these were incremental steps. People didn't even have accounts online. What did that translate to? They're paying more in fees just because the companies had to pay more. It cost more. It cost everyone more. So what's happened over the past 20 years or so? Those barriers to entry have gone down exponentially. You don't have to have thousands of dollars already saved up in order to open your first investment account. You can now do that with an app, with the spare change that you get from a transaction. You can do it with just small incremental amounts. You don't have to save, commit to save hundreds of dollars a month. It used to be where you could only buy in lots of 100. Can you imagine if you had to wait until you saved up enough money to buy 100 shares of, say, Alphabet, which is Google? Who's got that kind of money sitting around to start off, right? So it's really made this barrier to entry easier for folks. Here, put on my regulator hat. Now we've got a lot of new investors, and that's something, this past 18 months, people were focused on their finances. Whether they wanted to be or not, they were focused on it. We had a lot of new investors come into the market. A lot of them are using some of the new technology. Great. I want to make sure, though, people understand what they're getting themselves into. That's always important to know, because some of the technology, some of the accounts maybe have margin, which means you have the ability to buy more than what you have cash for. You may have options, which again is a leverage product. So do you understand what happens if the markets move against you and now you owe more than what you originally invested? Those are some of the concerns that we see as regulators. Like I said, we handle the complaints and questions that come in. What if your online app doesn't have a customer service number? You can't talk to an individual. You actually, you maybe communicate with them electronically, and then what happens if their systems become overwhelmed? So those are some of the challenges that we've seen with this. It's not to say, oh, this is bad, we need to stop it. That's not my message at all. We just need to make sure people understand what they're doing. We need for things, look, something's new. It may go awry. Change it. Make it better. And we see that. And we'll see this with new applications and what's happening. It is an opportunity. We are at that corner. Earlier, it's that 18-wheeler that needs to start planning for the turn. We're here. 2 generations ago, it was rich white families that invested in the markets. It wasn't my family. My family was lucky. My dad was in the military. My mom's a Methodist minister. Big call to service. But we didn't invest in the stock market growing up. That was for rich people. They were fortunate enough they had those pension plans. But now, guess what? This generation, this group, everybody is transitioning. You're going to be an investor whether you want to or not at some point in time, more than likely. And remember this, either you're the one paying interest or the one making it. So just keep that in mind. Technology will help us get there. Just we want to make sure people are aware of the risks they're taking on. I have to say, I'm starting to see a little bit of some similar things I saw in 1999, 2000, where I've heard some stories of college students who now have dropped out of college because they are the best stock trader in the world. That gives me pause, because the markets have sort of been going up at a regular. What happens when they don't go up? I wish, the S&P 500 historical return is around 10%. I wish it was 10% every year like clockwork. It's not. What happens when those markets drop 40%? And we've seen that, and what do you do then? I've heard of some of those same students now looking at going back into school because they did have maybe overexposure. They were not diversified. They were too concentrated in one particular stock. And also, when it comes to investing, we're a highly regulated entity. People have to be licensed with us. Products generally are registered with us. The exchanges on which they trade are registered also. You can do a background check on people with whom you do business. Just put in their name on investor.gov. I'll say it again, investor.gov. That's our retail-facing website. Technology is good. It's good for a regulator too, because we can do in-time background checks. People don't know that you're doing it. But if you're just out there doing this on your own, just make sure you know with whom you're doing business, okay? I'm going to say one thing about cryptocurrency. Remember how I said our salespeople are licensed? Our products are registered and they trade on exchanges. Those are pretty much 3 characteristics that digital assets don't have. Okay? Please don't invest more than you can afford to lose. We'll see where it goes, but it's something I think people need to be aware of, especially people who are just starting out. This is an area where you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket.
Could you talk to my nephew? Can I give him your number?
Right.
But right now, he might be the smartest guy in the room. It's hard to combat the stories where, I've got a 22-year-old who's a millionaire, and it's like, okay, are they? Have they cashed out? It's always easy to put your money in. Have you gotten it out? And what happens if someone hacks your account? So, yeah.
Lori, you are one cool regulator, let me just tell you. Woo! And I want to know if there's a regulator hat. What does it look like? Is it baseball? Is it a sombrero? Like their hats are okay, I know we have 1 minute, and I think that is just tragic. But I want each of you to describe in a word how you're feeling about this moment. We are meeting the moment at this conference. How are you feeling about meeting the moment? Lori, maybe we'll start with you. We'll mix it
Excited.
up.
I'm excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Okay.
Hopeful.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Perfect for the place we are in today.
That's right.
Mercedes, what about you?
Empowered.
Oh, love
So
that.
many opportunities and so many creativity that can solve a lot of things.
Well, I would like to stay with these 3 forever, but unfortunately we are out of time. Please join me in a warm thank you to our panel.